Afterburn released in 2025, and of course there's Dave Bautista as well as Olga Kurylenko and Samuel L. Jackson, and was directed by J.J. Perry, who previously directed Bautista in last year's The Killer's Game, which is a movie I enjoyed quite a bit. He also directed Day Shift, the Jamie Foxx vampire movie for Netflix a few years back, which I liked more than most as well. And this is one I was actually looking forward to in 2025 too. I've been a big fan of Batista since his pro wrestling days, and I've enjoyed where his acting career has gone. He just seems to be a really good human being as well. So I've missed a few things, but I really have enjoyed trajectory, how he's mixing in some more dramatic roles with sticking to throwback action plots like this. And I'll say I didn't like this quite as much as Killer's Game. But it has settled kind of nicely. I've waited a few days to talk about it. Maybe maybe I'm overcomplicating it by saying I had to wait a few days. Um, but still, I'm glad because I have warmed to it. It was a good bit of fun. Of course, it's the premise of a lot of the world losing electricity and everything after this massive solar flare. There have been ways humanity's found ways to use things like trains and different pockets of stuff here and there, but it's pretty much a dystopian post-apocalyptic world at this point. Civilization is fractured. There's factions and stuff like that spread through different parts of Europe and the rest of the globe and such. Batista's this treasure hunter finding things that can't be found, that sort of thing, and then there's kind of this war going on. He dreams of a more kind of peaceful life of isolation. Samuel Jackson's this one of these higher up bosses that have taken over, and he assigns Batista to find what apparently is this Mona Lisa painting. It turns out to be a bit more than that, but I won't spoil it, I suppose. So he heads over there and thinking, okay, he'll get this boat after that and be able to kind of sail to this, kind of more tranquil, life and where he wants. So it is, pretty typical. But I think there's always a place for, flicks like this too when you're in the mood. And if you enjoy the genre, you're always going to enjoy a solid version of it. I'm not saying the movie's great or anything. It was lacking a bit. There are kind of lulls at times. The kind of the pacing of certain scenes can feel a little just, some things are just kind of there. But Batista does a fine job. He's always very adamantly likable. Natural charisma to him. The fight scenes, not a ton, but they are pretty good. Actually, fairly violent, a little bit more so than I expected in spots. There's really a pretty cool one in the opening that's in most of the trailers. Batista asks the guys if they're real cops. um, the script is probably what lets it down a bit. There's some pretty freaking generic lines in it that probably aren't really all that funny. Might not have even been in the 80s or 90s, but it's fine. Batista still delivers it, as well as he can. I'm a big fan of Olga Kurylenko as well. I think she deserves a shit ton more mainstream credit. I think she's one of the better women action stars of the last couple of decades, really. So it was fun for me to see the two of them and their dynamic here, as she's kind of this agent he meets up with part way. Samuel Jackson isn't in it too much, but he does these kind of roles in his sleep. He's there, as another credit, essentially. I don't think he was lazy with it or anything. Just the role was what it was, and he was there for what it was. Christoph Hidju, one of the wildlings from Game of Thrones. He's another kind of boss in this. That's kind of their main opposition once the mission starts. And I should also mention Daniel Bernhardt, a real veteran action martial artist of the genre, is in here too as another heavy as per usual. When you see him, but it's nice to see guys like that in movies like this. But yeah, the movie goes where you're thinking, but there's a good bit of tension to it. There's some fun shootouts. It does get, like I said, violent, and I do think there's an okay amount of action sprinkled throughout. Just that kind of script and some of the pacing is a bit kind of just kind of coasting through. But yeah, I do think this is an easy to enjoy one if you're a fan of these sorts of movies. But yeah, when I guess thought about it, follow me on TikTok, of course, Twitter, Instagram. Later.